Welcome back to the Tough Love Podcast with Dr. John O'Connor. Today's guest, fitness professional, cancer survivor, and my friend, Joe Lane. Joe, welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So I had reached out to you and was beyond excited when you said yes. With it being Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and just as we were coming out of everything, my mom was just diagnosed with an aggressive triple threat lesion that she started chemotherapy today. And when I think about your energy, and I believe this is right around the 5-year anniversary of your detection and, being cancer free of your breast cancer battle, I couldn't think of a better person to embody warrior and be here with me today.
Thank you. That means a lot to me.
So, Joe, tell me about, let's go back 5 years ago. I believe you were in the wholesale retail space. Now I consider you the badass fitness guru, high energy, 4 a.m. screamer, 8 o'clock, go to bed person like me. But, bring me back to 5 years ago. Who was that Joe Lane?
Well, I was working in clothing. I had just come off of working at Neiman Marcus in North Jersey. And I had a really stressful 2 years of commuting up to Paramus. Took a job locally, just working at a small boutique, and was working in the gym, talking to the gym owner about becoming a fitness instructor and what that took. And I was going to start school, and I'll never forget, I was doing my breast exams every month in the shower. And one night I was laying in bed, and I decided when I was laying down to do it. And that's when I found my lump. And, I got up the next day, went to the gym, and actually said to Christina, what is this? Is this a pulled muscle? What is this? I was in the best shape of my life because I had just come off a fitness challenge at the gym, came in second in the fitness challenge. So I was as shredded as I've ever been. And my muscles were all tight. I thought maybe I pulled a muscle in my chest. She said, definitely it's not a muscle. It feels like a lump. So went and saw the doctor. Of course, he said, I got to send you for a biopsy. And had to go through a bunch of testing. I think the craziest thing is I didn't realize that mammograms are only 65% accurate. So this had been sitting in my chest for 4 years. And we could feel it, but we couldn't find it on the ultrasound. So that was kind of freaky. Mm-hmm. So we finally, had it biopsied. And then I always kind of laugh because I said, when you see it on TV and in the movies, the doctor sits you down at the desk and tells you have cancer. And instead, I got a phone call, and I was all by myself in the house alone. And it brought me to my knees. I remember I called my neighbor. I called my neighbor and was like, Lauren, are you home? And then had to break the news to Tom. And it was hard.
Now that was 5 years ago.
That was 5 years ago, September. And then that was 5 years ago, September. Thank you. And then, I put an amazing team together, and my team, my one doctor decided that, lumpectomy would be easy. And I said, grandmother had breast cancer. My aunt had breast cancer. And frankly, I just wanted the cancer out of me. So I wanted to take them off. They put me through more testing, MRIs, because she really felt like I should only have a lumpectomy. And when the MRI came back that I had more cancer in my right breast that was not detected again, then the decision was made to take them off.
Got it.
Which I did on Halloween 5 years ago.
There you go. And it's funny, you hear every case is different, right? And being in healthcare, and I don't know how many times we've caught something on x-ray where we're like, oh, we're looking at back pain and we find a mass. And,
right.
For my story where I was like, I need Joe in my life and because I need her strength. And, my mom was sitting at the pulmonologist for my dad, hearing about how bad his health was when the call came to her. Ugh. And, and I have to say, my dad's a pretty stoic individual, and he hasn't made mention of emphysema in 2 weeks because he's got one job.
Right.
See her through.
Right.
And the same thing, like you said with Tom. So I'm like, I'm not a crier, and I have to say, like, I was like, damn, like mama bear. And, then the tests is unbelievable. Like she's had, I'm going to say to get her to 2 weeks, and then they put the stent in, or, the port to deliver to chemotherapy.
Right.
My mom's had so many surgeries and is such a warrior that they couldn't put her under it because she has sleep apnea.
Oh.
So she's had many biopsies or bone. The one was a bone aspiration to see if she had bone cancer. And I was like, oh my goodness, it looked like a turkey baster when I pulled it up online to see what the thing was.
Right.
And she had to take it awake. And so my mom was like, and she's very Brooklyn. So you got to imagine, like she's sitting there and she's like, she grabs the person's hands and she's like, no matter what, you're not hurting me. And I know you're here for my own good.
Wow.
So no matter what comes out of my mouth, you keep doing your job, and I know you're a good person.
Wow.
And I laughed because that's my mother, and so she gets home and she's like telling me the procedure, and she's cute because she's like, bring it back to like Howard Cosell. She's the play-by-play of the doctors, she'll say, Johnny, this medical personnel, they were wonderful and they were so nice. And I said, Mom, did they do the job? She goes, let me get to the fact they're so nice.
Right.
I said, Mom, they're dealing with cancer. I said, and you know what? I'm glad that you love them. And it was the most recent test was, is it in your bones? And so when my mom's telling me the story, she hasn't got to me. I said, Mom, so we're in healthcare. Get me to the black and white first.
Right.
Don't kill me right here because I'm going to fall off the back of my chair. And she said, so she goes, well, I looked at him and I said, look me in my eyes. Give me your hand. And now he's, he's crumbling. And he says, to my ability, obviously I can't tell you, but it doesn't look like there's anything in your bones. And thank God at this point, there's not.
Right.
And so, I have to say that everybody has that different perspective. And, for my mom, who's had thyroid and liver cancer and successfully beat them, but we did lose her mom, much like how you had it in that side of the family,
right,
to complications of breast cancer. Seeing how proactive you are is amazing. And, I don't know if I would have, as your medical personnel support staff, I don't know if I would have encouraged you to do the 5,500 burpees that you did, which might have been a Guinness World Record. But you did raise some money.
You raised some money.
What would you tell the audience about the process that you go through every year when this month comes around?
Well, the fact that there's pink everywhere, we all say it that are breast cancer survivors, like we want to wear pink when we want to wear it. So, I did what I had to do this week and I wore my pink. But this is a tough month. I mean, September used to be my favorite month. October, sweater weather, you get cozy. And, now it's like, I hate to say it's PTSD because I never really believed in all of that. But September starts with in the back of my head that I went through this, and I sometimes can't believe I actually did it. Like I actually cut my breast off to save my life. Like it is wild. And I don't know, as strong as everybody sees me, I'm really not that strong. Like this is something that rocked me to my core and took away my gym and took away everything I did daily. So September, October are really tough months for me.
You know what? I guess one of the neat things that I've done as a healthcare provider, especially when I'm treating kids, and now on this bodybuilding thing, when I have little kids, they're like, you're so big, blah, 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 blah. And I chuckle and I'm like, and I think it's adorable. And they're like, but you've probably never been hurt. And I always like to take a knee and I'm like, I was paralyzed. And then sometimes they don't know what that means. I said, the whole left side of my body didn't work. And they're like, it didn't work? I said, not even a little bit.
Wow.
And they're like, well, what'd you do? I'm like, well, I didn't do much. I said, but the one thing was I had a great mom. And the amount of feeding of fruits and vegetables. She said, that's when she wasn't so big on doctors. She's like, these effing doctors don't know a thing, because I had a virus. It was an autoimmune disease. And it was unbelievably vague as to what I had, what makes it go away. But I got to the other side of it, much like you. And one of the amazing things that I'd always share as a healthcare provider is that if you believe you're going to get better, you will.
Yes.
And, the same, and I don't care what that is in life. If you can keep the hope and keep that light on in your heart and your mind and your spirit, it is amazing what everybody else does around you.
That's the truth.
And, I get a lot of leaders, and I consider you a leader. And, it really makes my heart smile to see that, how you carry yourself in these situations. So, and I told you I'd probably get you a little bit today, but like I said, I think it's so important to celebrate people, because, they say it, but until you're there, that dash in between the start and end, and you have those moments, you go, God, like I was right there. And, and I see it because I see how thoughtless you are, or selfless rather, with your parents down in Florida. And here we are in September or, October. And of course, it's also hurricane season.
Right.
And you're not thinking about PTSD. You're thinking about mom and dad.
Right.
And like, holy shit, do I got to get a canoe to row them out of wherever they are?
Right.
And so I think that, I always hear that they give the hardest roads to the toughest people. And most times I think those people don't know they're tough until they're thrown into it.
Yeah.
So tell me this. So I know you had a scare, because you scared the shit out of me a few weeks ago. But being cancer free right now, and hopefully for the rest of your life,
yes,
and a long life, what's the mantra that every day you wake up and, you put those feet on the ground? And what is it that if somebody was saying, Jolene, oh, that's so her, she would say that, what would it be?
I just live my life to the fullest. I'm not concerned about retirement. I'm not concerned about 5 years from now. I'm concerned with being in the moment. So I'm just in the moment and present every day. I mean, I literally, I get up at 3:30 every morning that I work, and I'm at the gym by 4:30. And I do that so that I have a half hour to get myself ready so that I can take a hot shower, right? I got to get all the bones move, get all the parts moving.
Yeah.
So that I'm ready to hit the ground running at 5 o'clock and give the best performance that I can for the next 4 hours.
Yeah.
And if I wasn't appreciated by that crew, by our members, it probably would be harder to do. But I jump out of bed, put on my favorite song, dance around the bathroom with my ear pods in, so I don't wake the house. And I just live life to the fullest. I'm making my husband a little crazy, because he's like, I know you're not worried about retirement. You want to spend money and go do stuff because you never know. We got to calm down a little bit. And I'm like, no, I want to live. I want to go. I want to hang out with my friends. I want to take the trips, and I want to do all those things, because I know I'm going to be here, but in the back of your mind,
what if?
Every scan, every test sets you back. Yeah.
I get it. And you know what? I can appreciate that. And I think the funny thing about it is so many, this podcast is really starting to take off for me. And I think it's because I've been through it. And, even in recent years, I've been blessed to have amazing people, Jessica, people by my side that have been there, because in my darkest times in the last couple of years, I didn't appreciate being present. And I think this month, of all months being, breast cancer awareness, and then my mom being diagnosed, and it was already hard enough. For me, September is deer season. And trust me, I'm the most bougie deer hunter in the woods.
I saw your stuff out there on the fence.
I'm taking pictures. It's amazing. The deer must be see him. They're like, this guy's doing a photo shoot. I don't think he can shoot us. Let's just walk by. We'll be all right. And
I love it.
But all kidding aside, I was raised an outdoorsman, And, my dad, the first like time loss is the fact that he can't just get up and go with us and come. Right. And, so I can appreciate everything you're saying, because you take for granted that we are just going to be here tomorrow. Right. And so I think there's something to be said, like to these business coaches I've been listening to and these podcasters, it's like, seize now, like be present here. Yep. And live in this moment. And I have to say, like, that was the one thing that I feel like you do such an amazing job with. And I chuckle, whether you're sitting on a sled being drugged or pushing it or pulling it. I'd be down in the bunker, training with Steve at the Ford Athletic Club. And I'm like, I don't know who's paying attention to her, but she's an A gamer. And when you've had as many businesses and been around, like, I feel like a vampire, right? I've lived so many lives and have done so many amazing things and not so many amazing things. But I have to say, when you own as many businesses as I've had and the new business I have opening, you have to appreciate an amazing staff. And I have to say, I had a business coach a few years ago, and they would say, make it a Disney experience. Yeah. And I have to say, I'm like, you know what?
I like that.
You create the Disney experience, not even knowing it's a thing.
Right. That's a good one. I like that.
So, well, it's funny when he would say it, some people are, and I do the same thing. Like if I have work at 7:30, I'm up at 4:30 and I'm literally pre-gaming. I mean, you see my post come up, you're working.
Correct.
And people are like, good Lord, he gets up early. And I'm like, and they see me like, God, he's physically fit. I'm like, it takes 2 hours to get all this going.
Exactly.
I'm like, this just doesn't happen.
No, I say it all the time. You see all this takes time to put together. And, I'm probably think I could possibly be the oldest coach in the gym, but forget how I look, because it doesn't matter. I'll throw a hat on and my glasses, but I want to bring my A game every day.
Yeah, 100%.
And
it's funny. It's something to be said. And I don't care whether it's healthcare with what I'm in, or the anti-aging space, or the podcast, or anything that I do. Now with the training, I chuckle, because I was a performance coach and athlete my entire life. And not to say I'm not an athlete anymore, but it's very different working muscles.
Right.
And it's very humbling.
Yes.
I laugh. I'm moving wrong. Heard. Move it again. Definitely wrong. And I'm like, all right, film me. Let me look. Wow, that's so bad. But I will tell you that we're starting to get attention, because it's amazing to watch the progression. We're not young, right? Now, so I'm like, I tell people sometimes I'm in the gym and like a guy will come up and like, we're in a hat or whatever. And somebody's like, dude, how many sets you got left? And meanwhile, I'm looking, I know it's my son. It could be him, which is my son's age. And they're like, hey, bruh, how many sets you got left? I'm like, it makes my heart smile, because that's my son's word. And I'm like, I have like 3 more left. Okay. And the guy will be like, yeah, good. And I'm like, and I'm laughing. I'm like, 50. And I just, and I say it, sometimes I'm blown away. And it's like, when I see any of us out there that anything that's 50 and over, I'm like, something to be said about, and that I firmly believe that you keeping yourself this way, all those cells in your body are kicking whatever's trying to attempt to come in, kicking their ass.
Hopefully.
And say, if you mess with me, I'm making you burpees. So you better be able to do 500 burpees before you're going to come through this door. I know it scares you. All right. What makes you happy when it comes to this experience, this process, the journey thus far?
Helping others. Yeah. I mean, I know it sounds really corny, but all of my friends know that when they're, they get a girlfriend or a sister or somebody that's diagnosed, usually the first call's to me, and they say, my sister, my friend came down with breast cancer. She doesn't want to talk about it. I think she'd benefit from talking to you. And as much as I hate to say this, I sometimes feel like God gave me this because he wanted me to work with other people and have them witness what I've gone through, talk through what I've been through, and make people understand it's not going to be that bad. And we all have different journeys. Some people go through chemo and radiation. But I get a lot of joy helping others get through, whether it's just testing. I was with a friend today at the hospital for biopsies. And, they let me come into the room to sit with her before she went in, and because they knew, and, it warms my heart. And I know that I wish I had somebody holding my hand through it.
During the process. Absolutely.
That I wouldn't have been as scared, because I was terrified. I had no idea what this journey was going to look like. But you do talk to other people.
I get it. And I can appreciate that. I just had that happen.
Yeah.
We had a good buddy that's a fitness nut like us. That's the head of secure, former SWAT, super fit, Homedale police officer. Now the head of security at Madison Square Garden. And Keith was walking on the treadmill and just dropped. Paralyzed from the waist down. GBS, what I had. And, it was funny that right away, I'm like, well, if he didn't have some type of a tumor or Cauda-Equina syndrome, which they ruled out, I'm like, then he probably has GBS. Wow. And of course they called me right away. They're like, oh, how'd you know? I said, I had it. He has an acute case. They have to put him on this IgG therapy. And, then he's going to be in some crazy rehab, and then he'll come to me and then I'll make him all better. And you're so calm. I go, my journey was a long time ago. When I talk about it now, it's my superpower. And to me, like anything else, and Thor had to grab his hammer out of the rock or the sword out of the stone. I said, everyone's going to have to make that journey. And during it, I was a kid. So literally I remember writing on the yellow legal pads, I'll be better tomorrow. I'll be better tomorrow, every day.
Wow.
And, and Keith has got that mindset, even though, we're older now. I said, Keith, how you feeling? Better tomorrow, doc. My man. And I think that's why people like us have these things happen, because, I think people want to suck the energy out of that. And they say, they call them energy suckers. But when people are hurt, I chuckle. I say, no, I welcome it. Mine is endless. And so if it's a healing thing, feel free to tap in, So talk to me about fitness. Like how many more years is it something that motivates you? Like, I feel like you're like this, star in the sky that's burning so bright. Like, how long do you see yourself doing this? You're touching everything now. Now you're becoming a fitness superstar. You're popping up in hot yoga, you're on the beach, you're in the class, you're pushing stuff, throwing stuff. I mean, what's the plan?
I want to, keep my strength. So of course I try to do, strength classes and try to do Pilates and hot classes. I want to continue to train. I actually looked into Pilates certification this week because I'd like to learn mat Pilates, because let's face it, at 59, the body's not getting any younger, but I would like to be able to coach things that,
work with your body.
Yeah. And I love being in the hot room. It's so freeing. And as hard as it is, I get done, I almost want to cry, because it's so hard to work out in 115 degree weather, 15 degree temperatures. But when you accomplish that and you get done with that, I'm so excited that I put my body through that. So I'm thinking, maybe that would be the next thing. But right now I love my 2 classes that I coach. I love bunker. It's just, you're picking up heavy stuff and throwing stuff around, and there's something about the power of holding a barbell in your hand. And I never did that at my old gym. This gym has truly made me the strongest. And when I pick up a bar that's got a lot of weight on it, I laugh and say, I never did that before.
And
So
freedom.
The fact that I'm stronger now than I was 2 years ago, that encourages me to keep going. Because I know that 60, 61, I'm hoping that I'll be.
Continue to keep going, right?
That's it.
I have to say, it was funny. I hadn't been in the bunker. And I think Christina was down there with Steve and Mark, big guy.
Mark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I hadn't been down there in probably 3 or 4 months, and I'm probably almost 20 pounds heavier. And I was like just grabbing stuff, and I was chuckling because I was pulling, I think, 445s, like with the rope, pulling it. And I was like, you know what? 3 years ago, 4 years ago, whenever the club first opened, I was 30 pounds less than I am right now. And I felt like all hope was lost. And, that's why we call the podcast Tough Love, because it's about, for me, in training, especially if you came to see my kids that know me and some of the young guys that are now in their late 30s, they're like, Doc was the guy. You always knew you can count on him to make you believe one more rep, one more shot, one more practice, one more drill. And I didn't believe it anymore. And, people used to say, I would say it and welcome it to say, I feel like Peter Pan. And they were like, oh no, that's a syndrome. I go, no, I think that's a blessing, until I wasn't. Then I'm like, now it's a problem. I want Peter Pan back. I can't move. I can't do anything. And so the Fort was an amazing rebirth, I think, for both of us.
Yep.
And, now, I find myself all over New Jersey training and doing stuff. I'm looking forward to working out in Las Vegas next week for the first time ever and getting some cool footage out there. So that's pretty exciting.
That's exciting.
But I have to say that I had been thinking about this podcast in this moment and thought it'd be special, and it's beyond. The gratitude and how I am to not only call you a friend, but to be here and to be in front of a survivor, a warrior, a person that is the voice of hope, makes my heart smile. So thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm going to give you a hug in a sec.
Okay.
But guys, thank you so much. Again, October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. For all ladies out there, the self-scans, there's so much available on the internet to check and to go through these things. Make sure for your own safety and well-being to have yourself checked regularly with your doctors. And again, thank you so much for joining us today. If you enjoyed today's podcast, please like, share it, and we'll see you guys again soon. God bless.